Don't see it yet.
Don't see it yet.
Now I do.
Recording.
It just popped up.
I know. Welcome to Syd and Malcolm. I'm Malcolm, but Syd ain't here. His lovely wife Diane is here.
I'm the stand-in.
She's a stand-in, but sometimes I think maybe we'll prefer to maybe have you stand in more. I like Syd, but you're much nicer to look at, and
Thank you so much.
I'm the old-fashioned type. I believe in admiring women without, necessarily, being offensive.
Okay.
I think it's fine. And our guest today is, introduce yourself, Cristy.
I'm Cristy Ecton. I'm the regional director for Rock and Wrap It Up here in Dallas, and I'm also on the advisory board, I think.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I've been with Rock and Wrap It Up since January 1996.
How did you get involved with them?
When I was a teenager, I was a huge reader of the Rolling Stone magazine. And when I just moved to Dallas after college, I saw this tiny article called Second Helpings, and it was all about Syd and his Rock and Wrap It Up work. And I called that night and left a voicemail. And the next day he called and I said, do you have a volunteer in Dallas? And he says, well, now I do. And that's how it started.
Well, so that's 26, what's it, 26 years?
It's a lot of math.
95?
25 years? Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. Someone just, you're getting older when somebody says 1995 and you say, 25 years ago. It seems like it's yesterday.
Yeah, it does. Knowing Syd and Diane, it does feel like yesterday. I feel like they were my new friends. And then one day I just had to realize after a couple decades, they're not so shiny anymore. They're still wonderful, but not so new and shiny.
They're your old friends now. Maybe not
no,
old.
We're all old friends. We go way back.
So what do you do with them now?
So it isn't very recent, feels like it is, like we said about time, but one of the things I'm super proud of Dallas is they came to me in 2013 through the EPA asking how do we get our convention center to donate food? And I said, easy. And we started working on it, and I got to know the chef of the Dallas Convention Center very well. And now all their food that they don't use, it goes across the freeway. It's literally a quarter of a mile away to our largest overnight shelter in Dallas that feeds about 1,000 meals a day. So they've been doing that, and now they can measure it in the tons of how much food that they've donated. I've done the rock concerts for years and years and years, but I think that one was my most favorite memory because it was sustainable. Because the convention center, I mean, except for COVID, is going to go on and on and on,
Now, who does this, the one with the convention center, who does this feed? It's mainly the Dallas area or Texas?
That's what I'm saying. After it feeds the auto show or whoever's paying for the convention center rental space and the catering, there is literally a shelter just on the other side of Interstate 30 from the convention center called Dallas Life Foundation. And it is a place where people go and stay. They get all kinds of help finding jobs and getting back up on their feet. And they serve 3 squares a day. And that adds up to about 1,000 meals per day. Wow. So it's just geographically such a serendipitous thing that they're so close.
Just to give you a little background, what we do is when we assign and choose a location, everything is based on distance. So rather than going miles and miles and miles away, we try to get the recipient agency closest to the donor so that it becomes like going to the grocery store and doing a quick, or a quick McDonald's run kind of a thing.
And that particular, I mean, I support all of our agencies in town. Sadly, we have more than one. But I think what's so great about Dallas Life is because of the volume. Years ago, when we picked up at the Texas Motor Speedway, soon after it opened, the Rolling Stones had a concert tour there, and they brought out a refrigerated truck. So that really helped to what Diane's saying of making sure all of that food was kept integrity in terms of its storage, and it fed people the next day. And I'm sure those people were like, where did all the steak and lobster come from? Because that's literally what the Rolling Stones had backstage.
Star food,
Yeah.
absolutely, rock star food.
Are they appearing in Los Angeles soon?
And will they let you get the combination plate?
Right. Did you guys do anything special during that blackout? Because there was such, coverage of that, people, the foods was being ruined. There was no electricity. How did you guys survive?
Oh, in Dallas, everybody did different things. I mean, there was no one, I mean, we did at the convention center, they were helping people with food and shelter, but it was really scary. We weren't prepared for, you're talking about the freeze we had in February, correct?
Well, I'm talking about the blackout, where the electricity went off.
Yeah, we just call it the freeze because
Oh, okay.
the rolling blackouts, right? Because it was, I think we're used to just your power going out for hurricanes and things, but because it was for a freeze, we we're like, okay, it's cold and there's no electricity. A lot of people, myself, I found shelter in a hotel. A lot of people went to family friends who happened to still have power. It was very spotty who had power and who didn't. And I have to give a shout out to the Kimpton because it's a new hotel, first one in Deep Ellum, which is got a lot of history in Dallas. Deep Ellum does, and they opened their doors and they fed everybody, and
Wow.
they served us 5 meals in the 2 days we were there, and we got charged $10 total between 2 of us. And they were letting the apartments next door come over and get free coffee. So I thought they were really acting as if this fancy hotel just turned into its own shelter of sorts, if you will. So that's what we did because we live right in the middle of town. Just people hunkered by their fireplaces. I think it was just a mix. Everybody did what they could do.
Well, also you have to understand, Malcolm, when there's a situation like that, the donor has to be really careful because in order to be compliant with the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan laws, proper food handling has to be employed. And when that doesn't happen, unfortunately, food might have to go to waste because you don't want people at the end of the day getting sick. So they know how long the food can go without power. I'm sure, knowing and judging from what happens in other places during hurricanes and floods when power goes out, there's a lot of barbecuing going on so that you can extend the life of the food that's defrosted when you're talking about perishable freezer and refrigerated food. But at the end of the day, you need to watch that time clock so that the integrity of the food stays safe. So they end up trying to do whatever they can by cooking what they can when they can, extending what way they can, and taking care of it that way. Because
Malcolm, I apologize. I wasn't getting the connection.
Yeah, something's
like an orchestrated effort in Dallas like Syd has. Syd has years and years of
no, nobody called us on that. I think everybody was scrambling.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening, but I can't see.
What do we do with all of this?
Yeah, for whatever reason, I think I'm having some Zoom problems because I can't hear you guys. But this will end in a minute.
Oh, no.
This thing will have to suffer through it. Can you hear me?
Okay, you're moving now, Malcolm. I hope you
I can.
Yes.
You're like on a frozen face.
Yeah. Well, now I see. Okay, I think we're back in.
Okay. So.
Yeah, that's the problem with the Zoom. We're gonna have to talk to Syd because he seems to know have solutions to everything with his scientific knowledge. Let's see if we can get him into Zoom because I know I'm doing several shows and we'll be going around great. Everything will be going great, and all of a sudden talk like that. I can't hear. Pictures will be frozen, but I know Syd's going to come up with something. I have confidence in him. So when he listens to, Syd, when you listen to the show, call me. But anyway, I understand, Diane was also telling me, I was asking her a little about you. She said you have some great experience in the Peace Corps.
Yeah. Oh, in fact, I brought Rock and Wrap It Up through the Peace Corps. Yeah, that was so exciting.
Yeah, and to me, probably one of the best foreign policies that the US ever had of ideas. And when, I mean, I go back, I remember when JFK was president and when they started the whole Peace Corps. And I thought that was so exciting. And again, this was when they had that image of the ugly American. When the American would go overseas, basically it was rich people. And the rich people were always, you know, to the peasants, they were always bossy. And they, oh, in America, they do it this way, they do it that way. You know, always comparing how foreign countries were to America.
So I have the privilege of knowing a documentarian in Dallas named Alan Mondale, and he and his wife have been doing documentaries of all sorts for years and years and years. One of my favorite is called A Fair to Remember, and it's about the history of the Texas State Fair that's here in Dallas. But he and I worked together. Well, I say collaborate. He was a driving force. He created a documentary about the Peace Corps about 10 years ago, and I got to help him with it. And he was one of the very first Peace Corps volunteers to go after Kennedy made that opening, if you will, that welcoming to that challenge of to do for your country. And he went to Sierra Leone, and it was such a remarkable trip for him. It's such a, I mean, my experience was not that at all. I went to the former USSR. I was stationed in Slovakia, and it was special for me because I grew up thinking the Cold War and watching all these movies like War Games and Moscow on the Hudson. And as a child, I thought, oh, what are, you know, I don't know who these people are. And the idea of who they are scares me. So going over there and living in the former USSR was so remarkable. I still have friends over there. But I do want to tell a story about Rock and Wrap It Up in Slovakia, or actually it's technically in Eastern Europe. Doing Peace Corps in the 2001, we had email and internet and all that, so it was really easy to get in touch with Syd. And I said, hey, I see that U2, their elevation tour is coming to Vienna, and Vienna's not very far from me. I could take one train and one bus and get there. Can you help set me up with whoever is doing their concert in Vienna? And they were doing 2 nights. And I got in touch with this guy named Wolfgang. And he'd been with U2 forever. He does all their travel, all their tour management. And I wrote back and forth with him. He said, sure.
Okay, here we go again.
He was like, yeah, let's see how it goes.
Here we go again with Anyway, guys, I don't know if you could see me. Am I freezing also? Am I moving?
No, I can.
You can see, but I can't hear you right now. Let's see.
I can see you also. This is whatever problem is, it's on Malcolm's end.
Okay, now I see you, but okay.
Okay,
Can you hear us? Okay.
I can hear you now.
Where did you last? What was the last thing you heard?
You are on a train.
Okay. Well, so I took a train and a bus to Vienna from where I lived in Slovakia, and we met up at the soup kitchen and asked them to bring the van to the concert hall, and they did. And we saw Wolfgang, and he said, look, the food's not ready, just go watch the concert. And a couple of Peace Corps volunteers, you tell us we can go see what's probably an $80 concert for free. We're like, sure, no problem. So we went out into the concert hall and we watched, and it was so interesting timing because after one song, Bono says, we're going to dedicate this next song to our friend Wolfgang, who helped us get into Sarajevo during the Bosnian War to do a concert. And my friend and I look at each other and we're like, we know Wolfgang. We know who he's talking about. And so then he played the song one, and we thought it was beautiful. And then we go backstage, and we just, so much food, just even that first night, 300 pounds the first night. And all I could remember is Wolfgang, this guy that looks like a sage with long blonde dreads or grayish blonde. And he looks at us and he goes, I'm going to do this all the time. Why haven't I been doing this? I said, well, you know, no time like the present. And it just really moved me that here's a guy who's been in the concert industry for decades, and he looks like nothing could ever surprise him. And I got to be one of the few people that surprised him and showed him that you've been throwing away food without even realizing how much you were throwing away. So from the 2 days, the 2 concerts, it was 600, 700 pounds of food.
Wow.
And then they did sign up with us.
Yeah.
And good old Cristy showed up in Dallas.
Okay, so in between that 9/11 happened, and I have to admit, I cut my Peace Corps term short by about 6 months because I thought, you know, I've already finished my project here in Slovakia. I'm really ready to get home. And so I came back in September. November, they were having a concert in Dallas, and I went backstage with my you know, aluminum pans and everything, and I said, I'm ready. And they're all like, wait, we've seen you before. I'm like, yeah, that was me in Vienna. Now here I am in Dallas.
What did you major in school? You went to college, right? Which one? Journalism?
Uh-huh.
Are you still involved with that professionally?
Yeah, so I do all the public relations type things for pediatric hematology oncology here at the major children's hospital in Dallas. So it's really cool. And in my free time, I deliver bone marrow.
Deliver bone marrow? Well, what does that involve?
She is my heroine. She carries and escorts body parts all over the country.
Not all body parts, just bone marrow. So somebody donates bone marrow anonymously, and it needs to go somewhere else. I haven't done international travel since COVID, but so I take it anywhere it's needed in America. And when COVID hit, completely separate of that, we got more people needing bone marrow transplants. They were just separate instances at the same time, a pandemic and more people needing bone marrow. So I was on empty planes, and I went to Times Square. I would have called you, Diane, you and Syd for lunch, but it was COVID. So I walked through an empty Times Square just to go get some food. The last year has been pretty amazing, but yeah, so it makes the world feel a lot smaller between helping with Rock and Wrap It Up and then the bone marrow. I mean, because just this week I learned that one of our doctors has been called to give bone marrow for somebody in the UK. How crazy is that? He treats kids with cancer.
I won't be surprised if you tell me now that you're also a concert pianist and an accomplished artist.
You know what I play really well?
What?
Stereo.
Oh. Are you good at languages?
Hovorím po slovensky trošku.
Really?
I can speak a little bit of Slovak. It's less and less every day that I haven't gone back.
I hope that will pass the censors.
Yeah, that's going to be your biggest problem. But no, it's everything. I've had so many stories related to Peace Corps with Rock and Wrap It Up, because I have to admit, all of my peers in Peace Corps were a lot more worldly than I'd never left America except to go to Cancun, right? And only did it to go before Peace Corps, so I couldn't say that my first time out of the country was Peace Corps. And so they were all very worldly, and when they saw that I took this thing that I learned about from Syd, this just go save food at a rock concert, and they saw that we did it so easily, they're like, what do you know? Sometimes the best ideas are the simplest,
Yeah.
Just don't waste food.
Yeah, when I first had Syd on the show, I was just amazed by what he does and how logical it is.
Well, we actually just had a very busy week, if you could believe it, in time of COVID. Last night we were honored by MSG, Madison Square Garden, for picking up 750,000 pounds of food during COVID. And that was amazing because it was all food that had been ordered with the hopes of having a season, a sports season, a concert season, a hockey season, stuff. And obviously nothing happened, and the food started to become short dated. So we arranged for the recovery, and it went to locations all over the city. And then today, we were covered by News 12, which is a local cable news station where we've been running since COVID started for a year now, Veterans Farmers Market. I think Syd spoke about that in one of the prior podcasts where
It sounds familiar.
yes, we recover the food from Trader Joe's and Costco and some local bakeries, including Bagelry, Panera, and part of it comes to my driveway. And the veterans from Syd's American Legion group come and they go shopping in my driveway in a safe fashion, because especially when it was early on in COVID, none of these folks should have been in the supermarkets. They're all older men and older families. Many of them are in their 80s, some in their late 80s, some in their early 90s. And they needed a place that they could go shopping and be safe. So they came to my driveway. And this is now being done 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Everybody comes masked up, they go shopping. And one of the things that has become most important about the farmers market is that it's a place for these people to visit and actually have personal interaction with people, not just on video, not just on the phone, but a personal, oh, I remember you, even if you're behind a mask. I know who you are. And they sit on folding chairs, and just when the weather is warm enough, and even if it's cold enough, they just sit and have a visit. And that has become as important as the shopping.
Yeah, well,
It's-
social contact is very important. And I think if I didn't have the shows that I do, I'd go crazy, because I consider this, personal social contact,
Right.
because I'm
I will
dealing
say,
with people, I'm
you
talking.
know, what Diane said about, sitting out in their lawn chairs and doing their little market outside, very organic. I mean, that's what Rock and Wrap It Up reminds you of, how grassroots things can be. So there's some people at my hospital that heard about how I pick up leftover food, and they were doing a big an annual tennis, junior tennis fundraiser tournament. And it got rained out. The whole thing was called off. And yet she had 400 sandwiches and apples, and all she knew is, I hate to let all this go to waste, but and all she knew was, Cristy takes food to shelters, and she called me up, and I went out there and picked up all her sandwiches and took it to a homeless shelter because of a rain out. So you're turning in some lemons into lemonade, right? Just, we're not going to have this, and it's a bummer, but we don't have to throw everything out. We can save the food and take it somewhere where people can need it.
That's exactly like the food that we recover from Trader Joe's and Costco.
Yep.
It's all short dated. Some of it, the packaging is damaged where people won't buy it, but it's the food inside the packaging, the integrity is perfect.
Diane, explain short dating.
Short dating is when you've got a product that is good till Friday, and today is Wednesday, and it's going to expire, so it's got to go off the shelves because they can't sell it. Once it's expired, in some worlds, it's dead. You can't safely, again, going back to the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan law, you have to watch these dates. It's very confusing, and conversation has been going on for years about best used by, expiration, and all of these dates. Just put an end date on when you can sell the food, and when it's going to be at its best, and when it's going to no longer be able to say that this is safe and good and healthy and it's not rotting. So when a supermarket gets new product in, that the old product that has this short window of saleability is then taken off the shelves, and they put the new product on the shelves.
I think that's the key, sellability versus expired, right?
That's right. That's right. Because in order to be in compliance, we're not distributing food that's expired. But what we are doing is we're distributing food that has that short window of saleability, Or you take a box of cereal, it's got the plastic on the inside, the cardboard box on the outside. If it's been crushed or in any way damaged, nobody's going to buy that box of cereal because they're going to say, oh, I'm going to take the neat one, clean one, not broken one right behind it. Same thing with jars and bottles when the label is kind of ripped off. People don't want to buy that for whatever reason. There's nothing wrong with the product inside the packaging. It's perfect. They just don't want to buy the package that's been damaged. So
Yeah.
that's donated.
Sometimes the supermarkets, the damaged packages, they put on for sale. Yeah, they have a discount on that because they know that it's hard to, people aren't going to buy it for the regular retail price.
Exactly. And the food inside is perfectly fine. You know, it's the same thing when you have a 6-pack of water and one bottle is crushed. They can't sell it now as a 6-pack, so they'll just donate
Discount,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I bet you guys are looking forward to the, when all these regulations are lifted and you start concerts again and shows and the whole bit. Which
We are.
in Los Angeles, in California, I think our date is June 15th, where the shows can start opening again.
Oh.
And can start opening.
Well,
That's
Amy Riley has started arranging for recovery from television and film.
Yeah,
So,
they're starting to shoot again because I know they're shooting right next door to me in the Church of the Chimes. They're shooting Good Girls.
so those productions that we work with have already contacted Amy, and she's starting to arrange for the recovery.
Mhm.
Right now, like I said, we were honored by MSG. They have capacity of close to 20,000. And I believe they are only allowed to have 10,000. No, I'm sorry. They're only allowed to have 2,000 in the arena.
Oh, wow, only 10% of their whole capacity? Wow.
Yeah.
I was at MSG the other night.
Oh,
I was watching the Lakers were playing the Knicks.
that was last night. That's when we were honored on the big board.
Yeah, I'm in a quandary from there because I was raised in New York and I'm a big Knick fan.
Uh-huh.
But I've been living out here for 40 years and I'm transferred my allegiance to the Lakers. I haven't transferred my allegiance to the Los Angeles Dodgers because I'm a Brooklyn Dodger fan.
Okay. Well,
And they broke my heart. I was a little kid and they moved, and baseball was like the #1 sport back then. And they moved to Los Angeles, and for years I couldn't even say Los Angeles Dodgers. So now I root for them when they win, but it's not in my heart. But the Lakers won me over, I have to admit, with the Magic Johnsons of the world and the Shaquille O'Neal and the Kobe.
uh-huh.
Now they have my allegiance. The Knicks, I don't particularly care for their owner, Mr. Dolan. But anyway, that's just an aside from me. You're not a sports fan, Cristy?
No, but I was gonna say, I hope I'm getting all my connections right. I did have a friend at the Mavericks, and he kept giving me tickets this one particular year, and it just happened to be the year that they won the championship. So the game, he always got me great seats, either in a suite or down near the floor. But this one game, I was way up, like I could touch the back wall of the arena, and we were playing the Lakers in the playoffs, and I think it was Phil Jackson's last game, and it was spectacular. It was one of the best. I mean, even though I was in nosebleed, it was the best game I'd ever seen. So,
are you involved with Mark Cuban at all? The owner?
oh yeah, he's my neighbor. No, I did meet him one time. So some of the pediatric hospitals have a Seacrest studio. So it's a closed caption studio where music performers and celebrities and stuff can go to a hospital and play in closed circuit TV for the kiddos. And we had our opening day. What's her name? Cristy? Wait, no, Selena Gomez was there with Ryan, and Mark Cuban came. And
Okay.
so I met him then, and I said thanks, because he's helped a local foundation, Childhood Cancer Research Foundation, and he was really nice. But no, I'm definitely a few degrees separated of him.
Oh, yeah, because he's very much involved with charities
Yes,
and
yeah.
ecology.
He's
So
very, that was the one thing I had to say to him, is I was like, I know the woman that has this foundation, and you help them with a nice donation. And I thank you for that, because her daughter passed away of a very rare cancer, and you're helping in her memory. And he had nothing to say but thanks. What else are you going to say to that?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been known to be very generous.
Yeah, I met him. I had a business meeting with him once before he became a billionaire. At that time, we were doing a similar type of business. What he was doing, got involved with the internet, and how he made his money.
Broadcast,
Yeah,
broadcast.com.
he would go over to the networks, and he said, "Okay, I will put your radio program on the internet. You don't have to pay me anything. Just give me airtime. Give me X amount of commercials per week." After he got all these commercials together, he sold them to major advertisers, and I think he made something like $5 billion.
Yeah.
Sold, and that was his very beginning. But I remember him just as a very personable person. In fact, I always say business cards. I still have his business card. Maybe if I ever get to meet him, I'll have him autograph it.
Well, I can't speak again, not much about Mark, but I also work with an organization called Caps for Kids, and we get autograph hats signed. And I will say, Dirk, every time I ask for one to get signed, it'll be quicker than anything. I could ask one day, the next day, the office person would call me and say, "Hey, I got your Dirk hat." And I go, "You mean the one I asked for yesterday?" They go, "Yeah, he just passes by, and if I have anything for him to sign, he does it." So
Oh, wow.
the whole organization is just a really good organization. So I hope they get another championship.
Well, Texas itself gets a bad rap, in the media. But everybody that I know from Texas, I have a good friend from El Paso, are marvelous people.
I was going to say, we might get a bad rap, but you got to think we're a pretty big state. So
yeah.
By odds, there's a lot to do some unsavory things, but we have some good people.
Well, we have to leave. Our half hour is up. But this my Texas story. This is when I first moved out here. I was driving through Texas on Route 10, and I was in actually a pickup truck, and we got rear-ended on on the 10. And I was still living in New York, and the Texas Rangers happened to stop by. And I could not understand them because they were speaking like they had cotton balls in their mouth, and everything was like that. And they couldn't understand me because I was from New York and I spoke fast. And they said, "Pardon, what'd you say?" And they had to speed up. I had to slow down. Whereas Churchill said, we're about U.S. and England, we're two countries separated by a common language.
Yeah,
That
for
is
sure.
Thank
you, Malcolm, for your time. Yeah. I appreciate it. And just, my takeaway, I would want anybody watching this and they got to this part, I just say, it's not a grand gesture you need to make. I mean, if you just, the other day, a homeless guy was sitting outside the 7-Eleven, and I was on my way to go pick up bone marrow, and he goes, "Hey, can I just get some chips?" And I said, "Sure." So I went inside and I was like, "What chips will I get him?" And I thought, it's just like a gift. Give them what you would like. So I got my favorite chips and I brought them out to him. I go, "Here you go. I love these. I hope you like them too." I mean, just the gesture of thinking outside of yourself. Like if you see some leftover food and it's perfectly good, the homeless shelter will take it. Sadly, they have intake 24/7. If you know of an event that gets rained out, don't cry about it. Take the food that was going to feed the people at the event to a shelter. Like it's just, if everybody did that one thing beyond themselves, this place would be so much more beautiful.
Oh, definitely. Well, do you have a website that people could contact you if they're in your part of the world, or any?
Basically just have them call Rock and Wrap It Up, rockandwrapitup.org, and then we put the call out to Cristy and say, "Hey, Cristy,
Yeah, speaking of Texans, I was their token Texan during the freeze. They called me from their, what were you in, your convertible or your truck? And they called me
Yes.
and they said, Cristy, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm the token Texan. They have to make sure I'm okay.
Surviving,
I love
yeah.
it.
That's it. I have a show with a friend of mine, Conversations with Deborah, a bi-coastal dialogue. She's in South Carolina. I'm calling up every other day because I hear all these tornadoes that are going right by. But so far,
Yeah.
Texas, at least this week, has been safe. But
Yes.
anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. And next time you'll see Syd.
Next time I'll see, I'd like to see both of you.
Thank you.
And
So-
I'll watch.
So come aboard and you watch. By the way, all these shows are on malcolmpresents.com, and you can go to back shows as well as other shows. Anyway, thanks again. Bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Malcolm.